In tonight's news edition, Jordan denounces a terror attack in Cairo that killed 6 policemen and wounded 3 others when a car bomb exploded near a checkpoint close to a government building. A tour organized by the Syrian army for journalists in Aleppo reveals how the historic city, a World Heritage Site, now lies in total ruins. And UNICEF helps Iraqi children catch up on education missed during a Daesh rule through operating child-friendly spaces where young boys and girls can enjoy playing and learning. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. On the eve of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights anniversary, the Prime Minister said the government is taking steady steps towards advancing human rights and enhancing liberties in the kingdom under the directives of His Majesty the King. Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki said Jordan has led efforts in the region to develop a holistic approach on upholding human rights through a committed and progressive reform program. Mulki said Jordan has a national human rights agenda which the government works diligently to implement under His Majesty's guidance. On September 10, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted and proclaimed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The declaration has been translated into more than 350 languages worldwide. A roadside bomb in Cairo earlier in the day near a security checkpoint killed 6 policemen and wounded 3 others, according to a statement by the Interior Ministry. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the blast, in which 4 civilians were also hurt. The ministry said a security cordon was thrown around the scene. On Tuesday, security forces killed 3 gunmen in a raid on a hideout in southern Egypt used by what they described as an armed wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, which claimed responsibility in September for an assassination attempt on a senior prosecutor. Judges, policemen, and senior officials have been targeted by radical Islamists, angered by long prison sentences imposed on members of the now outlawed Brotherhood. Jordan has denounced the terror attack in Cairo that killed and wounded members of Egypt's security forces. A statement by Minister of State for Media Affairs and Communication, Mohammed al-Momani, said Jordan stands by Egypt in its efforts to combat all acts of terror and offered the government's condolences over the loss of innocent lives. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Prince Zeid bin Raed has expressed deep concern over unprecedented proposed legislations in Israel that, if adopted, would allow the retroactive legalization of Israeli outposts constructed on privately owned Palestinian land in the occupied West Bank. The bill was approved by the Knesset on Wednesday. In a statement, the prince said in enabling the use of land privately owned by Palestinians for Israeli settlements without the owner's consent, this legislation would violate international law. Under the law, Israel, as the occupying power, must respect the private property of Palestinians, regardless of whether or not compensation is provided, he added. Prince Zeid strongly urged lawmakers to reconsider their support for this bill, which, if enacted, would have far-reaching consequences and would seriously damage the reputation of Israel around the world. And over to Syria, and what was once a beacon of ancient civilization is now nothing but rubble. The historic old city of Aleppo, a World Heritage Site and home to several attractions, now lies in ruins after 4 years of conflict. Syrian army soldiers took journalists on a tour of 2 old neighborhoods recently recaptured from rebels seeking to oust President Bashar al-Assad. Before Syria's civil war, Aleppo was a busy commercial powerhouse and proud historic center of an 11th century minaret towering above the Umayyad Mosque, an imposing citadel overlooking the old city center, but now lies in ruins. Street after street in the 2 neighborhoods are now reduced to nothing but rubble, with damaged vehicles and mortars left around. The The Syrian army, meanwhile, is pressing on with their offensive in Aleppo with ground fighting and airstrikes as part of a push to retake all of the city's besieged rebel-held east. Meanwhile, a UN human rights spokesman said there are reports that 2 rebel groups have in the last 2 weeks abducted and killed an unknown number of civilians in the city after asking to leave their neighborhoods to save their lives. The United Nations Human Rights Office also voiced deep concern that the army could be mistreating those who fled after hundreds of men from the city had gone missing after leaving.
Family members say they lost contact with the men. While it's very difficult to establish the facts in such a fluid and dangerous situation, we've received very worrying allegations that hundreds of men have gone missing after crossing into government-controlled areas. Family members say they lost contact with the men, who are all believed to be under 50 years old, after they fled opposition-controlled areas around a week or 10 days ago. Given the terrible record of arbitrary detention, torture, and enforced disappearances by the Syrian government, we are, of course, deeply concerned about the fate of these individuals.
In response to comments by United Nations Syria mediator Staffan de Mistura that it was time to look again at political discussions, the Syrian government today said it was ready to resume dialogue with the Syrian opposition, but without external intervention or preconditions. The government statement was carried by state news agency Sana, citing a foreign ministry source after de Mistura said yesterday he planned to meet with members of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's team to discuss the nearly 6-year conflict in Syria. Speaking to reporters after briefing the UN Security Council behind closed doors, de Mistura said there was a sense of unity among members.
I don't think I'm going beyond my own excess of interpretation, but I had the feeling there was a sense of unity at the Security Council today, perhaps unified by the common feeling that the ambassador of Spain was referring to, a common feeling that we may be disagreeing, but there are moments when we have to be united, when we think about who are the real victims in this conflict. And therefore
Iraqi forces captured a neighborhood in East Mosul in its push to retake control of the city. The campaign's commander, Lieutenant General Abd al-Amir Yarallah, said the Iraqi forces destroyed 3 sites where Daesh produced car bombs used in waves of suicide attacks. He said as counterterrorism service forces seized the Tamim district, Iraqi F-16 jets destroyed 3 production plants making car bombs in Mosul and 3 weapons stores. Today's push in eastern Mosul follows advances by Iraqi troops in the southeast when soldiers surged into the city earlier in the week and briefly seized a hospital, which was always believed to be used as a base for the terrorists. Meanwhile, the United Nations Food Programme in Iraq and other relief organizations face the challenge of providing aid to Mosul residents. An estimated 45,000 people are in need of food, water, and fuel. Here's more.
Iraqi police fire shots in the air in an effort to gain control as residents in Mosul scramble for food. An illustration of the challenges faced by humanitarian organizations as they seek to alleviate acute shortages of water, food, and fuel. Some 45,000 people are in need. They line up, hoping for relief.
Need gasoline. Some people got aid more than 10 times, while others got nothing. I do not have anyone, and I cannot push with others to get the aid. They have to find us a solution.
As the first aid arrives in Mosul, the UN is preparing for what's to come, says Program Officer Hadir Ithawi.
The big challenge for them is the need for water, for health care and fuel, as we are receiving winter now and the weather is increasingly getting cold.
So they line up and they hope for relief, fighting for a chance at a future.
The The first signs of normalcy for Iraqis are beginning to be seen on the streets of Erbil and in the lives of children. After years of living under Daesh rule, Iraqi children now sing, dance, and enjoy sports. UNICEF set up 10 schools in the Kurdish city of Erbil to help children play sports, dance, and catch up with their education. Most children had stopped activities such as street football as parents pulled them out, worried they would get brainwashed by Daesh. One of the teachers, Walid Ahmad, said there was no real teaching and Daesh terrorists trained the children in weapons and counting bullets. As part of activities to help children, UNICEF operated child-friendly spaces where children can enjoy playing, learning, and receive psychosocial support to help them overcome the ordeal they have lived through. Green Party supporters rallied in freezing temperatures in Michigan's capital and urged its high court to revive a recount of presidential votes in one of 3 states where the party wanted ballots re-examined. About 50 people marched in a circle for about an hour in front of the Michigan Supreme Court, where the Green Party presidential candidate asked the justice to hear an appeal. Despite the protests over the outcome of the November elections, the Trump team is counting down to Inauguration Day on January 20th. Here's more.
With a little over 40 days to go to the inauguration of Donald Trump as the next US president, preparations are already at an advanced stage. The platform where the ceremony will take place and seats for the thousands of visitors expected to attend are under construction.
On time and on budget. I'm not sure we'll do a whole lot better than that, but this is one of those projects that definitely has to be on time, and you always want to be on budget, and we are.
Officials say they're expecting about 1 million people for the inauguration and events surrounding it in Washington, D.C. That's 0.8 million less than the number who showed up to see Barack Obama sworn in for the first time. Trump is expected to move into the White House on January the 20th after he's sworn in. Several groups say they plan to hold demonstrations.
Walt Disney fans will get the chance to own a piece of history when the late animation entrepreneur's signed will goes under the hammer as part of a very rare auction. The Animation and Disneyana auction at Profiles in History in Los Angeles is offering 600 lots of animation art and Disney-related items. Disney's last will and testament was executed in 1941 and signed Walter E. Disney. In the will, he leaves his share of Disney production stock to his 2 daughters and the Disney employees' bonus pool. Other highlights from the sale include animation cells for frames from Cinderella, Dumbo, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and a prop pistol from the original Pirates of the Caribbean.
Some of our more important items happen to be the 1953 document that Walt Disney basically sold the use of his name to the Walt Disney Corporation that started the Disney Empire. So 60 to 80,000 is the pre-sale estimate on that particular piece. You know, we also have 1941 Walt Disney Last Will and Testament that we have from $40,000 to $60,000 estimate.
The Indian Aces top the International Premier Tennis League after beating the Singapore Slammers. The Aces raced into a 2-set 12-2 lead when Ivan Dodig and Feliciano Lopez won 6-2 in the men's doubles, and Lopez thrashed Nick Kyrgios 6-0 in the men's singles. The Slammers fought back to level the tie when Kirk Bertens beat Christian Flepkins 5-2 in the women's singles, and Carlos Moya beat Thomas Evenfest 6-4 in the Legends set. The deciding mixed doubles was won by the Aces Rowan Topana and Sanya Mirza, who beat Bagdatis and Bertens 6-5 in the shootout. And finally, it remains cold in most regions for the rest of tonight, with light variable winds and a chance for frost in the hilly areas. Tomorrow, a slight drop in temperature is expected with a chance for scattered showers in the northern and central parts of the kingdom in the evening hours. Winds will be northwesterly moderate. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a mild day tomorrow and cold nights with northerly winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. Jordan denounces a terror attack in Cairo that killed 6 policemen and wounded 3 others when a car bomb exploded near a checkpoint close to a government building. A tour organized by the Syrian army for journalists in Aleppo reveals how the historic city, a World Heritage Site, now lies in total ruins. And UNICEF helps Iraqi children catch up on education missed during a Daesh rule through operating child-friendly spaces where young boys and girls can enjoy playing and learning. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching and have a good night.